GDPR is a framework that will apply across all of the member states in Europe. It's a change with respect to data protection of data privacy in Europe. One of the core aspects of the new regulation that will apply across all of the countries is the fact that there is now a very clear distinction as to what is personal data per the regulation. And there are two types of personal data, and it's a very important distinction. The sensitive personal data is going to require a specific type of user consent before being processed. And that user consent should be explicit in the form of an opt-in. The type of data that Criteo is processing, which is user browsing behaviors, so browsing data, is a data which is non-sensitive, so it's a personal data but non-sensitive data. And the type of user consent that is required by the regulation is an unambiguous user consent. So for us, as a performance marketing company, we don't believe that we are going to be impacted in the way we operate. Because the way we today gather consent is very consistent with what the regulation is required. Now, for obviously other players in the digital advertising and digital industry at large in Europe, especially for players who are processing sensitive personal data, this can have significant impact on the way they need to protect the data within their system, on the way they need to obtain consent from their users. And one of the big changes that is introduced by the law is the penalties for non-compliance, and that's one of the reasons why you hear so much about it, and it has created some anxiety in the market. Is now, if you don't comply with the law, especially in the way you process sensitive personal data, you can incur penalties up to 4% of revenues, which is something very new in the European context. As in summary, we don't expect a major change for us, Criteo, given the way we've been operating over many years now. However, this is something that can be significant for other players of the industry that have not been exposed to privacy to the same extent that we've been over the past.
And what do you expect as far as enforcement by the EU? Is it hard to say what's going to happen in terms of immediate impact, long-term impact?
So what I would expect, I mean, of course, it's still early to understand how enforcement will take place. You have to keep in mind that enforcement is going to take place first at the geography level. So the data privacy authorities in each of the various member states, so in France it's the CNIL, which is the French Data Privacy Authority, is going to enforce regulation. We believe that for countries like France, who had already put a framework in place, which is very consistent with the spirit of the regulation, I would not expect a significant change in doctrine, the way the CNIL will approach enforcement. But of course, there is still a question mark as to how across the member states the various data privacy authorities are going to enforce. Given the fact that the regulation is an EU regulation, it's not a directive, it applies directly in the member states. The extent to which data privacy authority can interpret the law is going to be probably restricted. It's more the severity of enforcement, and when will they start to be really severe with the enforcement that might vary from country to country.